TM Builders, welcome back to another episode of Building Onchain podcast. Today's builder is Ash. He's the founder of Axal. Hi, Ash. How's it going?
Doing good, doing good. How about you?
Great. I'm really excited to actually have this conversation with you to dive deeper into like what Axel is and how you guys are using like intents, agents, solvers, and all of that. And then also to learn more about you as a builder. So on that note, how did you get started with building on chain? So like, was there like a small story there? What was the first thing that you built and deployed on chain and what chain?
Yeah. Well, I got into crypto freshman year of college for me, which is 2020, right after DeFi summer. There was just a club on campus that kind of had kids work with angels and VCs to do research, totally unpaid, just like, and this is when not nobody really knows about crypto, so it was just me exploring. Quickly fell in love with crypto before even writing code or really learning how to code. And then there were a lot of hackathons that I think a couple companies, Algorand at the time, which was based in the Boston area, they were sponsoring some stuff through this company called Reach. But I remember we started doing hackathons with them my freshman year in the spring. And it was like a 2 day like sprint. Who knows what we're doing, but lots of support and lots of just good vibes from that. And I think the first thing we built was decentralized crowdfunding. So if you know Kickstarter or any of these apps where you could kind of donate to people, we were thinking like, why not, number one, make this super transparent. Number two, let the people that donate kind of vote on when to release the next tranche of money. So almost like stages for when funds get released. And we thought it was super cool. It's like, here's an area where you don't have to trust anyone. All the voters are the people in charge, the people that are funding. And even in 2 days, we built a pretty fun app out of it. So that was my first foray into crypto, those hackathons.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And that's really interesting that you say that because my first crypto hackathon, we also built like a crowdfunding sort of application just because there was like a war or something happening at that time. And we were like, oh, hey, this is like right in front of us. Let's build. It never like went anywhere, but it was just like an interesting idea of like, hey, this is something you can use crypto for, like real life application. And so I love that. Okay, so that's like the first thing you built. Now moving on to like Axel. What is the lore behind Axel and how did you get started with building that product? Because I know that with startups, sometimes the idea changes a little bit over the journey, and there's usually different steps from like going from idea to actually building and like raising funding. And now you've launched Autopilot and things like that. So I just want to know that story.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. But you're completely correct. There's been a lot of like pivots and changes and people coming in and out, and like finally feel like we're on some more level of stable footing. But even that's probably going to change at some point. That's just the life of startups. But the way that we're describing Axel now is this network for verifiable agents, and I think, of course, there's a lot of hype and drama around agents these days. In my head, it's as simple as what if we lived in a world where you could just state a request, have these random entities, whether they're people or AI models or market makers, go and fulfill the request with guarantees. So it's not like I trust that you're going to fulfill this task correctly. I can delegate to you my request. You go and do it, and maybe you get rewarded or you get slashed, so punished, depending on if you fulfill it correctly. And I think we were inspired heavily by a lot of what Across is doing in the intent space on the bridging side, Uniswap X and CowSwap were on the swap side, but literally instead of all this fancy like AMMs or cross-chain messaging or whatever, we just run these auctions and create these true free markets where anyone can go and claim to do a task and they can go and do it. So that's like Axel today. Started off very different. So after those hackathons that I was talking about, my junior year of college, one project that we worked on was decentralized treasury management. So think of like a Fireblocks or an Anchorage, but for the masses, doesn't cost like 100K a year. Super easy to just have permissions for different people. So that was our first like hackathon project where not only did we have a lot of success with it and like doing it, but other people like the sponsors and other teams were like, we'd love to maybe use this because we're dying with our Gnosis Ape and we can't afford something that's like much more powerful and useful for our team. We got into A16Z's Crypto Startup School Accelerator with that idea in the spring of 2023. Spent the whole few months, by far the youngest and earliest out of everyone in the cohort, but really loved the experience. We just spoke to every CFO that we could, realized pretty quickly we weren't the team for it, and also during a bear market, and even today, it's like not the biggest market or scope for what the product could become. You're kind of just helping automate accounting for one or two people at every crypto protocol. But we did realize that like automation in general was pretty exciting. And if you guys know Zapier and Web 2, that was a big inspiration kind of halfway through our journey. Like what if we built no code automation to make just interacting on chain super easy? It could be as simple as like listen to Ash's wallet, send him a text whenever he receives USDC. or it could be like a 10-step conditional workflow for user engagement or treasury management or something else. So that was kind of the intermediary. Had some good success there. We sold to folks like Gitcoin, LBank, some other centralized exchanges, and then this vision that I opened up with, which is our current vision, kind of got excited about intents and agents about 6 months ago. So I'd say like spring of 2024. So as you can tell, like very long journey, lots of different things have changed, but very, very excited right now with the current vision.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And so speaking of what Axal is right now, I know that one of the like really interesting things you have going on now is Autopilot. I've also seen something interesting with so I follow Cozy on Twitter. So I see like he compares like he's trading on his own, like human trading with like Axel
Yeah.
with autopilot trading. I also saw that you have like a sort of like contest for like the participants in the beta testing program. But I think that like maybe we should go back a bit and like what is autopilot? What are some of the features of autopilot? And then how does all of
Yeah.
that work here?
Yeah, I mean, Autopilot, I think is I love it because I feel like it's one of those things where we can explain it super easily to everyone. It isn't true for like 99% of things in crypto. Like the pitch really is like agent-powered automated trading, and like doesn't matter how technical you are. I think you start to get a sense of this aura of like, okay, this is some powerful tool that helps me get into crypto, and that's the experience that we try to create. Like, it doesn't matter if you're myself or you or my mom who knows like basically nothing about crypto. You should be able to fill out a quick survey, which is the UI that we're going with right now, BuzzFeed type form style. You get a sense of somebody's risk profile, and then under the hood, our agents will automatically go and create a basket of assets. So maybe it's you're super risk averse and it's just stables and Ethereum and Bitcoin, or maybe you're like me and you're okay with like every meme coin under the sun and you just want exposure to something. So that's like setup, and then after that, it really isn't the name. The goal is for it to be fully on autopilot. Like you don't have to go and constantly modify these things. You've specified constraints for rebalancing, earning yield on passive assets, whether that's stables or maybe even the blue chips, or maybe even a more long tail asset that we can put into Aave for you. Lots of other fancy stuff. We're excited about like copy trading and being able to create more custom strategies. Like, what if you could just say like buy $1 of every new meme coin that launches in the next like I don't know like 2 hours or something, and sell it when it goes above a certain level. Like in general, making trading and interacting on chain super intuitive is the goal with Autopilot. And I guess to your point and to the previous question, there's so much that we want to do with Axel. Like it's a very big vision, and there's a lot that you can do with agents. And on our end, it was like let's start with something that has a lot of order flow and demand, is easy for us to verify. So focused on crypto on-chain-ish stuff for now. It has a lot of excitement, and I think Autopilot checks a lot of those boxes and resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I feel like with like the bull market, everyone is aware of like people are making money on chain. Not everybody has time, not everybody has awareness, not everybody has skill, but they might want to get in on the action and just
Yeah,
automate it and have it running on autopilot. But you can also like, okay, I only want to trade like safe coins,
yeah.
like that sort of thing. So that's really interesting.
Of that point, like there's a funny anecdote, or like for me myself, it's like I've had like 2K USDC sitting in a MetaMask wallet for the last like 4 years, like ever since I got into crypto. And I'm not like stupid, but I'm also like I'm not lazy. But on that context, it's like I just haven't touched it, and I could have earned passive yield, I could have traded with it, could have done something else. So that's one end of the spectrum. And then also before DevCon, I was traveling around Asia a little bit and speaking to like random people, like a monk or somebody who's like a tour guide who has never heard about crypto or finances, and like talking to him about autopilot or like what you could do with just passive investing, especially in countries where you don't have access to like good traditional like banking infra, which is the vast majority of the world outside of the US or a lot of the Western nations. Like this is something that gets pretty exciting. So I think to your point, it's not just like, yay, like I can trade meme coins. It's like there is so much that you can do to just help people better get exposure. So sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there because
Yeah, no, thank you for that add-on. And so one thing I'm curious about is now that you've had people using and trying out Autopilot, what are some of the trends that you've noticed just in the kind of people, what kind of actions they're taking, what kind of results they're getting, and how that compares, if at all, to what you thought before you actually had people using it?
yeah, that's an amazing question because I think like we had a lot of assumptions going in, and on some stuff we just had no idea what people would do, and then now we're starting to see data, even though it's still a beta. But we have like around 500 people without a lot of marketing or pubbing on our end because we want to hold off until it's real we can trade with real money to really go out to the masses and get people excited. But around 500 people testing over the past like 2 to 3-ish weeks, we've seen, at least for the top performers, just over that period of time, like 30 to 40-ish% returns off of not too actively managed strategies. Like I've checked every day at the top guy who's been number one for a little bit. His portfolio is mostly DeFi. Like for context, we've created these buckets or rough buckets of categories like stable coins, blue chips, DeFi, L1s and L2s, just like 4 or 5 of these. And for him, it's like he's vastly allocated into that. He has a little bit of stables and a little bit of blue chips. And this is a strategy where like I never would have thought about it. Like when I set up my own autopilot post launch, I think I was like an even split between every category. And then I set up a new wallet where I was like mostly meme coins. And I think going in, we were like, okay, meme coins or those sorts of strategies where people are adding custom tokens, so not even just what we're maybe listing for ease. I thought those would do super well. But then you look at it and they're not even really doing that much on the custom token side. So I think like it's important not to draw too many big takeaways just given how early it is, but it does prove that like passive management for even these guys that are number one and have these crazy returns in this period of time can still be very useful. And you don't need to do a lot of like custom research even if you have exposure to an overall index or category. I think that's a pretty big learning, and that's cool in something like crypto where you think it's like, oh, I missed out on this really niche meme coin. I have no idea how that impacts my future investing. So that's one observation that I found pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And that's interesting for me also. And I know like the joke is like 30 to 40% returns is like you're outperforming the market because majority of people like have losses. I think also like this sort of like trading, I think it's more similar to like what people are used to with Web2 stocks trading in a sense. So that's like on Autopilot. For like Autopilot and how it relates to Axel, I've seen you guys write that Autopilot is like the application layer and then Axel is like the infrastructure layer. So it's like on top of Axel. I think we've been talking a lot about Autopilot, but not really a lot about Axel and like just like how does that work under the hood?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I kind of think of it as like 3 steps as far as like the infra. Like, we talked about it at the start with like verifiable agents is the goal. And without going too deep into the intent side of things, all that intents really mean, or you have this flow of like step one, a user states their request. It could be like buy me pizza in the next 10 minutes, or for us, it might be like make this trade as soon as you can with at most this cost, let's say. So user states request is step one. Step two is there's some mechanism to find an agent or a solver to go and do this task. In a crosses case, it's basically a free for all. Like whoever's the first person to claim this bridging operation, they get to go and do it. For Uniswap X, they have a Dutch auction. CalSwap has batched auctions. Lots of mechanisms just to get one person to go and fulfill it. In step three is you verify that the agent or the solver has actually done it correctly. So that's like at a high level the framework. All that we're doing differently from these guys is trying to apply it to more general tasks than just swaps and bridging. So when you think about autopilot and all the things that need to be done, you don't even have to think about it as autopilot. Think about what you yourself would do in order to make these trades. Like you're going and you're checking prices, or every day you're seeing if you have to rebalance, or you're seeing where the best yield is that you can earn free assets. There's a lot of these on-chain tasks that require data collection or require actions that can get painful super quickly. So for us, each of those at the application layer with autopilot is spun up as a task on the base infra for Axel, where the network has these requests coming in. Any agent, for now it's mostly ourselves, and we're talking to a lot of other folks to get more agents on board. They can listen and they can go and claim that they can do this task correctly. They're collateralized. They go and fulfill the task. The Axel network verifies that they've done those correctly, and if they have, then they get rewarded. Otherwise, they don't. I try to think of it as like this swarm of like agents under the hood that are constantly being in check, with the application literally like floating on top of this. That's just like the rough mental image that I always have. And the goal is to apply that even beyond autopilot, like booking a hotel or traveling or sports betting, like all just more exciting future things.
I love that like you painted a picture in my head because now that I can like visualize like what how it works and like other ways it can be used. I think that so far like I kind of understand like what it is that like Axel is and where Autopilot comes in and but can other applications be built on top of Axel? Is that something that other builders can like leverage like the base infrastructure that you've already built with Axel? That's something I'm curious about. And like if not, or if there's like it depends, then like can you just like explain like how like builders can leverage that also.
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking that because like most of our focus has been on Autopilot and like us building our own application, but the end game is not for that to be true at all. My dream is like you have all these different builders that are building apps on top of the base infra that we do super well. And even on the agent side, I hope that we get outcompeted by like better agents or better people because that just means that we have a better marketplace for tasks. But yeah, like 100%. Like other things that you can build, I touched on some of them, and we're building little demos over the next few weeks just to showcase the magic that can happen. But like sports betting from natural language. Like maybe, and I'll just state the request. Maybe the request is like you follow basketball and you love the Celtics, and every time that if ESPN shows that their odds for winning the championship go above like 80%, you want to pool a lot of money into that bet. Like you want to place the bet. But if at any point from now until the end of the season their odds go below like 50%, you want to cash out of the bet because the odds went down. You made a terrible decision. If you ask yourself like how do you build that flow today, you're manually going on ESPN every day, you're checking the stats, maybe you know how to write code, and maybe there's an API, but it's probably painful to use and it's a very rigid tool that you built. With agents, each of those tasks can be kind of auctioned off, and you're willing to pay maybe like $1 for some group of agents to go and do all of these tasks. And this is something that you can do. Like you can verify through web proofs or zk-TLS, off-chain data. You can verify on-chain bets that might be placed, etc. So one specific example that I think is totally different. Anyone can go and build this, and the dream is you're building this on the Axal infra, where you don't have to worry about finding agents, and critically, you don't have to worry about verifying them. It really is, even if you're a builder, you can just state your kind of request, submit these requests in these specific formats, and you're good to go. So that's one example, but there really is a lot. Like we're focused on mostly trading stuff today and crypto-related use cases. Like you could probably build better intent-based, like complex DeFi applications using Axal. Compared to doing something on your own. Like Across has proven that intent-based bridges are here to stay and maybe better than other mechanisms. Same thing with like CowSwap or Uniswap X. Maybe it's cheaper, faster, etc. to do an intent-based swap. My pitch is like intent-based applications in general, especially as they get more complex and liquid, are probably better and can lead to better UX for everyone and also just better results and rates. So yeah, that's the dream is everyone can build on top of this.
Yeah, no, I think that that is really interesting. And I also like hope someone listens and like runs with that idea because I would like to see that as a reality. This last set of questions will be like more rapid fire. So like what's something in the like crypto X AI space that you are really most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, top of mind right now is like the agent kind of space, or right now it's mostly like Twitter chatbots almost, but I think we're quickly seeing the evolution of what it can be. So AI XBT has been fun to watch, like this application that just has market data and it can do a lot, but at least on our end, we're working on and excited about like what if it can do function calling? What if it can trade on your behalf? What if it can, I don't know, go and interact with other applications? So I think like it's kind of like the chat GPT moment. Like you've created something where it's so user facing that everyone starts to think like, oh, agents are cool. Like let's actually make them powerful.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what are some things that you do on or off chain when you're not building for fun?
The example earlier might have given some of it away, but I love following sports and sports betting. Like big basketball fan, big football fan. And my roommates right now who aren't in crypto at all, half of what we do is like watch a game or play some like video games. So big sports fan. Yeah, to get inspired some use cases.
No, I love it. Do you trade like sports cards also?
I did when I was little. I was like a big, yeah, big on that. Now it's like it's a lot more betting. Like I do some pretty degen stuff. Like there's a bet on DraftKings where you can bet on the next field goal. So literally, like you have 5 seconds to place a bet, and it's like, will the Celtics score a two or a three, or will it be like the Mavs or something? And it's very high adrenaline, not stable or safe at all. So that's sometimes fun.
No, I love that. So like, what's your crypto hot take that you could get canceled for saying?
Hmm. I think we're okay. I mean, hopefully I don't get canceled. I think it's like we're way too focused on trading, like way too focused on trading in DeFi. I think like we have the tech now to build really magical stuff where you can straight up go to Web 2. Like you don't even have to have an intermediary. And obviously we're starting with Autopilot, so I'm not necessarily one to talk, but we're moving very quickly towards some of these other use cases. And I think that's how you reach mass adoption. And even ignoring that, that's just how you grow the pie and make this stuff look exciting. Because right now crypto is way too financial and way too sketchy to 99% of people.
No, I agree. Best and worst advice you've ever gotten, or like just good or bad advice you've gotten.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything for bad, but for good, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and there's one friend in particular who's been saying it to me a lot. Like, it's not that deep, like that kind of quote. I think it applies to like so much of life, and Like a lot of things are very important, don't get me wrong, but it's like if you go into it with like a very uptight, scared mentality almost, you're probably not going to perform well or do it to the best of your ability. So I think in general, it's like there's always a fallback, there's always an option, especially in startups. Like you will fail over and over and over again, and you just got to remember it's not that deep. You've got to move on. Kind of. So that quote stays top of mind.
Okay, that's a good one. Dream team for like, and it doesn't have to be like crypto, like dream builder team.
Let's see. I got a twin brother who's building not in crypto, but this guy's the most like intense startup kind of vibe person I know. I used to do debate with him way back in high school before all of this. So I think he's number one on the draft. Then I'd probably do both of my roommates. Like these guys are outside of crypto, but just like very good thinkers and counter each other out a little bit. Like energetic versus like I don't know, more thoughtful and full of philosophical. So good group. I think those three around me. It's the team.
You know, I love that you're like surrounded by people that you admire so much. It's like really good for you also and for like all of you. And the last question is, who is someone you would like to see on the podcast?
Oh, I should have prepared something for this. On the nature of like agents, there's one guy at Coinbase who's been pushing out like quite a few good demos, and he's also super young and like a builder himself. Named Lincoln Murr. He's been doing a lot of their like agent SDK on the Coinbase CDP team demos. I think he'd be great to talk to. In general, I love what they're doing with like trying to make crypto more real world, and at least on the agent side, I think Lincoln's doing a lot. So I'd say him, and then everyone else on the Axal team, of course.
Yeah, no, I love that. And thank you so much, Ash, for coming on and sharing so much. This was an amazing podcast, and this is basically the end of the podcast. So bye. Have a good one.